Kia ora guys, welcome back to the Black Jersey. My name's Max, I'm the host of this channel, and today's video is going to be my prediction on the 33-man Rugby World Cup squad that Ian Foster could select for the All Blacks. It's going to be an upgrade from 2019 and 2015, where every team was only permitted to select 31 players. This time they're getting permission to select 33, so that's just another bonus prop and a bonus number 10 if you ask me. A big thank you as well to my patrons who are always doing their best to support me. You guys got to see this wee team sheet early, so thank you very much for your ongoing support. To those who are new, just remember to subscribe to me down below and comment your thoughts on it once the video is over. Now, to start off with everything, I just want to say 3 players who will get picked for the Rugby Championship but then could rather potentially get dropped. These players are going to be Akira Ioane over at blindside flanker, because as we'll look at later in the video, the circumstances over at number 8 and open side flanker make it very difficult for any actual out and out sixes to make it into the starting lineup, whereas Ioane doesn't quite have the versatility to come off the bench and cover multiple positions, unlike others who can come off and cover lock and 6. The next one's going to be Levi Aumua, who's really impressed me this year. The guy is a very powerful guy that can cover both 12 and 13. He's signed with the Crusaders after playing with Moana Pacifica for 2 years, but he just doesn't quite have the club level cohesion with the other midfielders to quite make it to the World Cup squad, in my opinion. And the other guy is Sean Stevenson, who has done a lot of good stuff with ball in hand. He's lit the tournament up very much. He's the leading try scorer of Super Rugby, but his defense rate is currently a tackle percentage of 73%, so I don't think he's quite going to get there. Plus, with Will Jordan unable to get any minutes at fullback, it's going to be pretty difficult for Stevenson. Now guys, into the 33-man World Cup squad. We're going to start off with the hookers. At hooker, I think we're going to see the same old with Cody Taylor, Samisoni Taukei'aho and Dane Coles. Throughout most of this World Cup cycle, Taylor has been the first choice for Foster, whereas Taukei'aho has recently overtaken Dane Coles on the hooker depth chart, and he had a true breakout season for the All Blacks in 2022, becoming the leading try scorer of that season with 7 test tries. Coles has been a bit iffy in recent times, but he's actually done the job and strung minutes together at club level for the Hurricanes this year, so I do think Foster will continue to pick Coles for experience, as Asafo Aumua has also had a few issues with injury. Taylor, on the other hand, is starting to peak at a very good time after a little bit of a form slump last year, so I do think Foster is going to stick with his first, second and third choice hooker that we can see on the depth chart that he has used the entire way through. We now go over to loose head prop, and it's pretty obvious that the Jason Ryan front row with Ethan de Groot and Tyrell Lomax are going to keep doing their thing at prop, and they also combined very well with Taylor in the end of year tour of 2022. Joe Moody isn't going to be available for selection until August, but he has recovered very nicely from his ACL injury. He's really kept his discipline this year, so that's going to be a huge plus. With lack of experience at prop and a huge injury ward that I've talked about in the article version of this video that my readers can have a look at, well, Joe Moody's experience is going to be very necessary, though de Groot will be able to overtake him in the depth chart to reflect their place in the pecking order come World Cup time. Because the injury ward is just so absolutely huge, well, it just makes sense to see Aidan Ross, who's a guy in form, get a call up. Ross did play his test debut against Ireland in Dunedin last year, though he was a late withdrawal from the Wellington test against Ireland and hadn't played a test since. He remains firmly on the radar, though having been selected for the All Black 15 team last year, so I do think Aidan Ross is going to be that third choice loose head prop. Now over at tight head prop, Tyrell Lomax, well, I mentioned him before, he's obviously going to be making the team. He's 27 years old, so he's a really good age. He's at the peak of his powers to be performing as a world-class prop at a World Cup. And Ofa Tu'ungafasi is well known for being a very experienced player who can be relied on for impact, and so Tu'ungafasi and Moody combining together off the bench is definitely possible, as the both of them are very experienced players who can just hold the fort in that last 20 minutes. And as for Tamaiti Williams, he has been the form player of Super Rugby in 2023, and if there are going to be any bolters in the forwards, it's either going to be a prop due to the injuries or a lock that can cover 6, and so Tamaiti Williams, the heaviest All Black of all time, It is going to happen. He is going to get the call up. Jason Ryan was his Crusaders coach for a wee bit. He was the forwards coach over there. He also called Williams up to the All Blacks 15. He is on the radar. He's a Māori All Black. It is going to happen. Now guys, we're not too far away from discussing the rather awkward circumstances over in the loose forwards, and so because of said circumstances I will get onto later, I do think there are only going to be 3 specialist locks, as Patrick Tuipulotu and Josh Lord have both had their fair share of injuries, which is absolutely gutting, especially for Lord, who's a really nice dude that I've had as a guest on my channel before. It's okay though, Sam Whitelock is now the most capped active player in Test rugby, and he's just 7 Test caps away from being the first All Black to break the barrier of 150 Tests, and he'll become the 2nd player in history to do that after Alan Wynne-Jones. Brodie Retallick, as you all know, is his long-time locking combo partner. Retallick's played 100 Tests as well, so it's going to be a huge void in the post-World Cup era. You can't just dump all that experience at this stage, particularly as Retallick's having a very solid Super Rugby season in the tight spaces of the pitch. Tupou Vaa'i is clearly the heir apparent. He's also got that ability to cover 6, but Fozzie's only given him 2 minutes in that position, so I think we're just simply going to see Vaa'i come along as a specialist locking cover and get a decent go and terrorise the Uruguayans and terrorise the Namibians at the pool stage. We now move over to blindside flanker, and as I said earlier in the video when discussing the possible dropping of Akira Ioane, that's because in recent times Foster has been starting a lock at 6 to balance the line out and give the All Blacks more ruck clearance options as they do start 2 open side flankers in Sam Cane and Ardie Savio very regularly. Shannon Frizzell, who has played a fair bit of lock for the Highlanders this year, he's not exactly in the best form right now, but he started several tests for the All Blacks at blindside flanker and is 6'5", so is definitely the size of a lock, whereas he is the 2nd in the depth chart for blindside flanker. But would he be higher up if it weren't for a certain event that took place in 2021? I do indeed believe so. The thing is with Frizzell is that he's not exactly an out and out 6 as a lot of people seem to think he is. He is genuinely seen as a lock that can cover 6 these days. Sam Cane has started in 18 of the 34 tests that Foster has been the head coach of, and in 10 of the 18 tests that Cane has started, there has been that 3rd lock at 6, and as of late, Scott Barrett has been the guy they've been going to for this reason. Would Barrett have been starting at 6 during the Rugby Championship if not for an injury to Brodie Retallick? I think that definitely could have been the case. He's also been called in at 6 for some big tests against Ireland and England, whereas he's also done the job previously at the 2019 World Cup, so I do believe Scott Barrett will be the first choice 6 for the All Blacks in 2023. As for open side flanker, I think it's pretty clear how things stand. Sam Cane has played the most minutes in the position during the Foster era because he's captain. He's played 86 tests. I don't think I have to say much more about Sam Cane. Bonus as well, he's playing really well right now. Dalton Papali'i is the Blues captain as well, so even though Billy Harmon, who's the Highlanders captain, is playing really well, I do think the overwhelming share of minutes for Papali'i and Cane will shut the door on the possibility of a 3rd open side flanker making it into the team, especially because when we cut over to the number 8s, we see that Ardie Savio, 70 test veteran, best player in the world, can cover all 3 positions in the loose forwards, so there's not really much of a need to have another guy who can cover all those different positions in the loose forwards. Hoskin Sotutu definitely deserves more action at test level, but if the fact that Luke Jacobson didn't make it onto the pitch at all last year is going to tell us anything, it's that Hoskin Sotutu, though he's barely had any game time under Foster, is the only guy that Foster does indeed trust to start if Savia isn't available for selection. Sotutu, for example, did indeed get to start in the Melbourne Test against Australia for the Bledisloe, and he did come off the bench against England, which was a very crucial test. Funny considering Sotutu was actually eligible for Fiji and England before he became an All Black. We're now going to take a quick ad break and get into the backs once that one is over and done with. Yes guys, I know it's going to be very tempting for Foster to select Cam Roigard because he's done such amazing things as an individual this year, but one area of notice that's lacking a fair bit is his try-assist ratio. The 3 incumbent All Black halfbacks have made far more try-assists than Roigard this season, and when we look at the club level cohesion throughout the All Black spine, I don't think there's going to be room for a new All Black in the number 9 jersey. Folau Fakatava's been injured as well, and so I just don't think he's going to have enough game game time under his belt to get to the World Cup. Brad Weber, Finlay Christie, Aaron Smith. It's pretty obvious how the structure is. All of the second choice All Blacks in the spine play for the Blues aside from Taukei'aho at hooker. All of the third choice players in the spine apart from Coles at hooker play for the Chiefs, and so Weber and Christie, because of how everything's been structured by Joe Schmidt, they are going to basically just get a free pass into the team. Though Weber did only play a single test last year, that was essentially just to help Christie get a little bit ahead, as they do want to structure everything accordingly to club level cohesion, aside from obviously Aaron Smith and the rest of the first choice players who were just repeatedly selected over and over and over again. Smith is the most capped All Blacks back of all time. He's 34 years old. He will want to get a very nice sayonara to Test rugby with a World Cup win, so they're going to keep him in the 9 jersey. Over to 10, Richie Mo'unga is going to be in the same boat as Aaron Smith. He's going to Japan at the end of the World Cup, as is Beauden Barrett, who's the second choice player for both 10 and 15. Though Richie Mo'unga is the first choice, everyone will still want Barrett to start. Unfortunately, Bodie just hadn't quite had the best Super Rugby season, which is real gutting to see a guy play so fast as prime. Mackenzie though, Damien Mackenzie, he is definitely getting a recall. I'm sorry to Stephen Petafeta, but Mackenzie, after playing absolutely out of his skin, deserves a place in the team. Ian Foster, being a former Chiefs coach, will think the same thing. If there is one thing I can guarantee to you guys, it is that Damien Mackenzie will absolutely get a recall to Test rugby, because he is the third choice player for both 10 and 15, whereas Beauden Barrett is of course second for both 10 and 15, though form and club level cohesion with the other Chiefs guys who could rise up to second place may mean D-Mac comes off the bench for the knockout stages instead. Anyway guys, over to the midfield. Let's stop talking about the changes that could potentially happen to this team. R13, Rico Ioane, it is happening. He's getting selected. He's nailed on. He's played the second to most minutes of any player in the Foster era. Massive amount of minutes on the wing. Massive amount at 13. It's happening. As for the other guy at 13, I know it's going to start a bit of an outrage, but Braden Ennor has really come along as a distributor as of late. Though he's had poor performances at test level recently, against Italy and against Japan, to be honest, no out-and-out second five has really developed and said, I want to put my hands up, whereas Alex Nankerville is sadly going off to Munster. So I do think Braden Ennor, after a few improvements in his distribution, after not looking as gun-shy as he normally has, is going to make the team. Ennor has played over 200 minutes for Foster, so he's probably just going to be the safe bet who only really plays in the pool stages. David Havili, his Crusaders teammate, goes without saying. With Quinn Tupai out due to injury, Havili is the only real proper choice at 12, considering the fullback is the guy who's played the second to most minutes behind him. With no extra number 12, Anton Lienert-Brown's just going to cover both positions, I think. Lienert-Brown's played a huge amount of minutes with both Havili and Ioane, whereas Lienert-Brown plays for the Chiefs, so can come off the bench alongside all of his club level teammates. He has the factor of 60 test caps, and though he's been injured as of late, well, experience is what wins you World Cups. Now we go over to the outside backs. I don't think I have to count any of the minutes played by any of the guys, aside from Geordie Barrett, who has played the most minutes of any player in the Ian Foster era. Geordie Barrett has truly developed into a world-class talent, and though he will be starting at fullback as a safety net, everything like that, do expect him to move to 12 when backline reshuffles happen, when Mackenzie comes off the bench. The All Blacks do backline reshuffles a fair bit when replacements come on, so look forward to seeing Geordie Barrett playing two positions in the knockout stages of the tournament. As for the wingers, well guys, Leicester Fainga Anuku looks like he's going to be moving to Toulon in France. It's basically said and done at this point from what the media have reported. And Caleb Clark, because he's played more tests, there may be only room for one out-and-out power winger in the outside backs. Clark has improved under the high ball as well, so that's a plus for Foster, though a few people do see him as a double-edged sword who really makes the good tackles, makes the good carries, but has really bad defensive positioning. I do think the improvements under the high ball, as I said before, will counteract a lot of that for Foster. Will Jordan, Do I need to say more? The guy I think will get his first crack at fullback against either Uruguay or against Namibia, and he's re-signed to 2027, so it's going to happen sooner rather than later. Foster will just want to keep Geordie there for the sake of the spine's cohesion. Anyway, as for the bolter, that is definitely going to be Amoni Narawa. While Sean Stevenson has had a few dodgy moments on defence, Narawa's defence stats are absolutely elite. Look at them, 89% for a winger. That is just unheard of these days. Wingers aren't exactly known for tackling, so a guy who can make big hits like Narawa, and he comes. Narawa can cover fullback as well. He's played fullback many a time for Bay of Plenty, whereas at 98 kgs he does offer a fair bit of the power with ball in hand that Clark can also give to the team. Mark Talia though, there is going to be room for him, but I would personally like to see Talia at 11 with Jordan at 14, because Talia, he's a freak, leads Super Rugby for defenders beaten. He's now equal with Stevenson as the top try scorer. Mark Talia deserves to be there, and after giving him a debut against Scotland last year, Foster was confident enough to start Mark Talia at 14 against England. Either way things go, he's definitely going to have a lot of pace in the outside back. So to conclude everything, guys, this is the end of my prediction on who I think Ian Foster, Joe Schmidt and Jason Ryan, the All Black selectors, are going to pick for the team. This is not my opinion on who I would pick. My team would be very different, and so you can view my video about who I would pick for the team in this one here instead, as our own opinions, well, they don't exactly interfere on who the coaches are selecting. Thank you very much for watching this video, everybody. Make sure to subscribe down below, support me on Instagram, follow me on Twitter, and of course you can become one of my patrons if you really like my content. I really appreciate you guys for viewing this. God bless you, and I'll see you on the next video, everybody. Cheers from Max.